Lieutenant Kaya Thorne walked into the weapons inspection hall carrying something that made half the room do a double take. A sword. Not a vibroblade. Not a plasma-edged combat knife. Not even one of those fancy monomolecular cutters the Zelian diplomats like to wave around at ceremonies. An actual, honest-to-God, centuries-old katana. Metal, curve, edge. Nothing else. In a room full of plasma rifles, photon disruptors, and graviton cannons, Kaya might as well have brought a pointed stick. Actually, scratch that. At least a pointed stick could be loaded with a neurotoxin. This was just steel. Old steel. The kind that belonged in a museum, not in the hands of someone about to graduate from the most prestigious combat academy in 9-star systems. "Is that?" Tomas started, squinting at her from across the assembly floor. He was human, like her, which somehow made his incredulity sting worse. "Is that a real antique?" "It's real," Kaya said, adjusting the scabbard on her belt. Her plasma rifle hung on her other side, standard issue, perfectly maintained. She wasn't stupid. But the blade? The blade went everywhere she did. "Real useless, you mean?" Prix chimed in, his crystalline features catching the overhead lights and scattering rainbow patterns across the floor. He was Quilixian, all sharp angles and translucent planes, and his voice had that particular resonance that made every word sound like it was being carved into stone. "What are you planning to do with that, Thorne? Threaten someone's great-great-grandfather?" A few cadets laughed. Not many. Most were too professional for that, or at least smart enough to keep their mouths shut during inspection protocols, but enough to make the point. Kaya didn't bite. She'd heard worse. Growing up on a colony world where your family still practiced old ways meant you developed thick skin early. Or you broke. She'd chosen option 1. "It's functional," she said simply, moving to her designated inspection station. "Oh, I'm sure it is." Prix wasn't done. Of course he wasn't done. Functional for what? Cutting vegetables? Intimidating house pets? Really making a statement at costume parties? "Prix, can it?" Quern muttered. He was Molthan, vaguely reptilian, and had the good sense to look embarrassed by his classmates' behavior. Unfortunately, he also had the backbone of overcooked pasta, so his objection carried about as much weight as a photon in a black hole. Master Ulix entered the hall before Prix could fire off another witty observation, and every cadet snapped to attention. The instructor was Corthan, 6.5 feet of chitinous plating, 4 arms, compound eyes that could track a neutrino in a nebula. He'd been teaching advanced tactical combat for 23 cycles, and his reputation included words like merciless, brilliant, and will absolutely fail you for breathing wrong. "Inspection positions," Ulix said, his voice buzzing through the translator unit mounted on his thorax. "Weapons live, safeties engaged, magazines visible." Kaya set her plasma rifle down first, exactly according to protocol. Power cell ejected, chamber open, trigger lock activated. Then she laid the katana beside it, still sheathed. Ulix moved down the line, checking each station with methodical precision. He paused at Thomas's setup, made a minute adjustment to the man's photon scope, moved on. Quern got a nod of approval. Prix received what might have been a Corthan equivalent of a sigh. Hard to tell with the mandibles. Then Ulix reached Kaya's station. He stopped. His upper arms continued their inspection routine, running scanners over her plasma rifle. But his lower arms extended toward the katana, manipulator claws clicking softly. "May I?" he asked. "Of course, Master." Ulix lifted the blade, scabbard and all, with surprising delicacy. His compound eyes shifted through several color spectrums, analyzing. One claw tip traced the Seijo cord wrapped around the scabbard. Old silk, faded, but intact. Then he drew it. 30 inches of curved steel emerged with a whisper of sound. No dramatic ring, no flash of light. Just metal moving through wood and air. But something about it made the ambient noise in the hall drop by half. Ulix held the blade up to the light. His antenna twitched. Then he went very, very still. When a Corthan goes still, you notice. They're not built for stillness. Their species evolved from hive hunters who could chase prey for days without stopping. Seeing Ulix freeze like that was like watching a river suddenly decide to flow upward. "Where did you get this?" His voice had lost its casual inspection tone. "Family heirloom," Kaya said. "It's been passed down for 6 generations," Ulix interrupted, antennas quivering now. "Possibly 8? Forged in the old method, folded steel, differential hardening. But the base material..." He leaned closer, close enough that Kaya could see her reflection fracture across his compound eyes. "Lieutenant Thorne, do you know what this is made from?" "My grandfather said it was meteorite iron, from old Earth, before the colony ships." "Meteorite iron." Ulix repeated the words like he was tasting them, testing them. His mandibles clicked in a pattern Kaya had learned to recognize as deep thought. "Yes, that's one way to describe it." Prix, because he apparently had a death wish, chose that moment to snicker. "Oh, good. Mystical space rock. That'll definitely stop a plasma bolt." Ulix's head swiveled. All of it. The full 180 that Corthans could manage, and humans absolutely could not. And fixed Prix, with a look that could have stripped paint. "Lieutenant Prix," he said very quietly, "how many combat drones do you believe you could defeat in a standard tactical simulation?" Prix blinked, his crystalline features refracting confusion. 5? Maybe 6 if they're Mark 7 or below." "Sir." "And with how much damage to yourself?" "Minimal. I'm in the top percentile. For combat scores, sir. You've seen my..." Yes, I've seen your scores." Ulix made a dismissive gesture with one arm while still holding Kaya's blade with another. It was an impressive display of multitasking. "Top 15% in the class. Quite impressive. You should be proud." Prix preened. Literally, his crystalline ridges caught the light and scattered it even more brilliantly. "Thank you, sir. How would you like to demonstrate those skills right now?" The preening stopped. "Sir?" Ulix turned back to Kaya, and when he spoke, his voice dropped to a pitch that his translator could barely catch. Words meant only for her, mandibles forming shapes that carried meaning beyond sound. "That metal was forged to cut titans." Kaya's breath caught. She knew the stories. Every kid raised in the old families knew the stories. But stories were one thing. Having a Corthan combat master, someone who'd fought in actual wars, someone who'd seen things that made simulation drones look like toys, having him confirm those stories was something else entirely. "You've heard of them," Ulix said, still quiet. Not a question. "The Leviathan Wars. Before first contact. The machines that nearly ended your species, yes?" Ulix's antennas drooped slightly, a gesture of respect or possibly regret. "Your people don't advertise that particular chapter of history. Understandable. But some of us remember. Some of us made it our business to remember." He raised his voice back to instructional volume, and the entire hall snapped to attention again. "Change of protocol," Ulix announced. "We're moving to the tactical simulation arena. Immediately. All cadets, gather your primary weapons. Lieutenant Kaya..." He held out her katana, returning it with both lower arms in a formal presentation grip that Kaya recognized from Corthan military customs. High respect, the kind you showed to superior officers or decorated veterans. You'll bring only that, someone gasped. Might have been Quern, might have been Thomas. Didn't matter. Prix found his voice. Sir, with respect, that's not, she can't possibly. Lieutenant Prix, Ulix's tone could have flash-frozen hydrogen. You expressed confidence in your combat abilities. Would you care to put those abilities to a small test? Standard simulation, 5 Mark 9 drones, realistic damage protocols. Of course, sir. I'm ready whenever. Good. You'll go first. Establish a baseline. Ulix's compound eyes glittered with something that might have been amusement. Might have been anticipation. Then Lieutenant Kaya will run the same simulation, with her museum piece. Prix's crystalline features went through several color shifts. Confusion. Realization. Something that looked suspiciously like concern. And if she fails? He asked. If she fails, she's removed from the advanced tactical program. Flagged as equipment compromised. Possibly recycled back to basic combat training. Ulix let that hang in the air for a moment. But if she succeeds, if she matches or exceeds your performance with nothing but that blade, then I suggest you all reconsider your assumptions about primitive technology. Kaya took the katana, slid it back into its scabbard with practiced ease. Her heart was pounding, but her hands stayed steady. Grandfather's voice echoed in her memory, words spoken over a grinding wheel in their family's tiny forge room on the colony. This blade has drunk fire and swallowed stars. Respect it, and it'll never fail you. She'd always thought that was poetic metaphor. Maybe it wasn't. Arena, now! Ulix gestured toward the exit with 3 arms simultaneously. And someone start an unofficial betting pool. Make it interesting. That got a ripple of nervous laughter. Betting pools were technically against Academy regulations. They were also absolutely everywhere, and every instructor knew it. Thomas sidled up to Kaya as they filed out. Hey, you sure about this? Mark 9 drones are no joke. They've got adaptive targeting, predictive algorithms, sustained fire capability? I know what they've got. Right. Yeah. It's just... He glanced at the katana on her belt. That's a really nice family heirloom. Would be a shame if something happened to it. Or, to you. Thomas? Yeah? Shut up. He shut up. The tactical simulation arena occupied an entire deck of the station, big enough to replicate everything from tight corridor fighting to open battlefield scenarios. When they arrived, the space was configured for urban combat, collapsed buildings, debris fields, plenty of cover. Good for tactical shooting, terrible for sword work. Kaya smiled. Prix noticed. Something funny, Thorn? Just thinking, she said. 5 Mark 9 drones, adaptive targeting. This should be educational. Glad you're keeping a positive attitude. Prix checked his plasma rifle, his movements precise and practiced. Good technique, she had to admit. He wasn't just arrogant, he had the skills to back up his mouth. Usually. Try not to get killed too quickly. I'd hate for this to be anticlimactic. Ulix took position at the control station, his multiple arms dancing across the interface. Lieutenant Prix, you're up. Standard rules. Eliminate all hostile targets. Minimize personal damage. Complete objectives within 15 minutes or face termination. Questions? No, sir. Then enter the arena. Prix moved to the access door, rolled his shoulders, which was interesting to watch on a crystalline anatomy, and stepped through. The arena door sealed behind Prix, with a hiss that sounded uncomfortably final. For about 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then the simulation kicked in, overlaying the physical space with holographic elements, flickering fires, atmospheric haze, the distant sound of structural collapse. Combat zone authenticity, they called it. Mental conditioning, more accurately. Made your brain believe the danger was real, which made your body react like the danger was real, which made the training actually worth something. The drones activated, 5 of them materializing from various cover points around the arena. Mark 9 models, each about the size of a human torso, spherical cores bristling with weapon mounts and sensor arrays. They moved with that particular flowing motion that came from having micro-thrusters pointed in literally every direction. No momentum, no inertia, just instant response to threat calculations running faster than conscious thought. One of them fired immediately. Prix dove behind a chunk of simulated concrete as a plasma bolt scorched the air where his head had been. Good reflexes. He came up shooting, his rifle tracking smoothly, and caught the drone dead center. Its shields flared blue-white, absorbed the hit, and the drone retreated to recalculate. Decent opening, Ulix murmured from the control station. His lower arms were documenting everything, styluses moving across data tablets in blur of motion. Aggressive, but not reckless. He's got combat sense. Kaya watched Prix move through the arena like he'd been born to it, rolling between cover points, using suppressing fire to control drone positioning, exploiting sightline advantages. When he caught one drone separated from its group, he hit it with a sustained burst that overwhelmed its shields and sent it spinning to the ground, core sparking. 1 down. The remaining 4 adapted immediately, tightening their formation, covering each other's approach vectors. Prix responded by going vertical, using his species' natural climbing ability to scale a half-collapsed wall. Height advantage. Smart. He took out the second drone from above, dropping it with a precision shot through its primary sensor cluster. 2 down. 6 minutes elapsed. "He's good," Tomas whispered, standing next to Kaya in the observation area. "Like, really good. Did you see that vertical repositioning? Most people don't think three-dimensionally in combat situations." "Most people aren't Colixian," Kaya replied. "Their homeworld has low gravity. They grow up climbing." "Still impressive, though. Never said it wasn't." Prix took a hit then, glancing blow from a drone that had flanked him while he was focused on another target. His shields held, but the impact sent him tumbling off his perch. He landed hard, rolled, came up firing blind. Panic shooting, survival instinct overriding training. Got lucky, though. One of his wild shots clipped a drone's thruster assembly, sent it careening into a wall where it exploded in a shower of sparks and shrapnel. 3 down. "And that," Ulix said, mandibles clicking, "is why we drill until conscious thought becomes obsolete. Panic kills precision. Precision keeps you alive." The final 2 drones had Prix pinned now, crossfire situation, both of them pouring sustained fire into his cover position. His shields were holding but degrading fast, the telltale flicker of imminent failure starting to show. Prix did something crazy then, something desperate. He charged, just straight up sprinted directly at one of the drones, using his body as bait, shields absorbing punishment, rifle firing continuously. The drone's targeting algorithm probably had a small seizure trying to process that decision. By the time it calculated a new response pattern, Prix was close enough to physically grab it. He smashed it against the ground, hard enough that its core casing cracked. Then he fired his rifle directly into the crack at point-blank range. 4 down. The last drone, having witnessed this display of controlled insanity, apparently decided that tactical retreat was the better part of valor. It pulled back, putting distance between itself and Prix, buying time to recalibrate. Prix didn't give it time. He was wounded now, couple of actual burns showing through damaged sections of his uniform. But moving like pain was optional. He flanked wide, used the same vertical tactics as before, and caught the drone with a 3-round burst that punched through its shields and core simultaneously. 5 down. Time: 8 minutes, 36 seconds. The arena went neutral, simulation elements fading, emergency medical scanners sweeping Prix automatically. Minor burns, shield impact bruising, nothing serious. He emerged through the access door looking tired but satisfied. That crystalline smugness back in full force. 8:36, he said, addressing the room but looking directly at Kaya. Standard tactical doctrine, minimal wasted movement, all targets eliminated. Not bad for a training run, if I say so myself. You do say so, Quern muttered. Frequently. Ulix's antennas twitched. Approval or amusement, hard to tell. Adequate performance, Lieutenant Prix. You demonstrated solid fundamentals, good spatial awareness, acceptable improvisation under pressure. The final drone engagement was unnecessarily risky, but effective. Thank you, sir. Prix turned to Kaya, his smile sharp enough to cut glass. Your turn, Thorn. Think you can match that with your antique? Kaya stepped forward, her hand resting on the katana's grip. Match it? No. Prix's smile widened. Well, at least you're being realistic about... I'm going to beat it. Silence dropped over the observation area like a physical weight. Ulix made a sound that the translator rendered as thoughtful humming. Lieutenant Kaya, you understand the parameters. 5 Mark 9 drones. Full combat protocols. No shields, no armor beyond your standard uniform, no ranged weapons, just this. Kaya drew the katana, the blade emerging with that same soft whisper. In the arena's harsh lighting, the steel seemed to catch and hold the light in ways that didn't quite make optical sense. I understand, Master. This is suicide, Tomas said, not quite quietly enough. This is fascinating, Ulix corrected. Lieutenant Kaya, enter when ready. Kaya moved to the access door, the katana held in a low guard position. Her grandfather had taught her 12 basic forms, 63 advanced techniques, and one piece of advice that trumped all the technical knowledge. The sword moves where the mind is clear. Doubt dulls the edge. She cleared her mind. The door sealed behind her. Same arena configuration, same lighting, same atmospheric effects. For 5 seconds, nothing. Then the drones activated. Kaya didn't move. She stood in the open, no cover, no defensive position, just standing there, blade angled down, watching. What's she doing? Thomas asked. Waiting, Ulix said. For what? Them. The first drone fired, testing her response time. Plasma bolt, aimed center mass, standard engagement protocol. Kaya moved. Not away, not to cover. Forward. She closed 15 feet in the time it took the plasma bolt to cross that distance, and the katana came up in an arc that would have looked beautiful if it wasn't so terrifyingly fast. The blade met the plasma bolt mid-flight and did something that made 3 people in the observation area swear simultaneously. It cut the bolt in half. Both pieces diverted, splashing harmlessly against the arena walls, and Kaya was already moving again. The drone tried to track her, its targeting systems attempting to predict her next position based on her trajectory and velocity, but she wasn't moving in predictable patterns. She was flowing, each step positioning her for the next, each movement creating angles that made the drone's calculations obsolete. She reached it. The katana struck once, a diagonal cut that should have bounced harmlessly off the drone's armored casing. Instead, The blade went through like the armor was made of paper. The drone split in two, its core exposed and sparking, and crashed to the ground. One down. 12 seconds elapsed. "What?" Prix started. "Quiet," Ulix commanded. The remaining 4 drones responded as programmed, tightening formation, coordinating fire patterns. 3 plasma bolts converged on Kaya's position from different angles, a kill box that should have been inescapable. Kaya dropped flat, rolled left, came up running. 1 bolt passed over her, another behind her, the third just barely missing as she pivoted. She was already closing on the second drone, moving in the spaces between their firing solutions. The blade struck again, this time a rising cut that caught the drone at the seam between its core and weapon housing. The metal parted like water, and the drone's anti-grav failed, dropping it like a stone. 2 down. 28 seconds. Kaya was breathing hard now, but her movements hadn't slowed. If anything, she was accelerating, like the combat was burning away everything except pure motion and intent. The third drone tried something clever. It went high, putting distance and elevation between itself and Kaya. Good tactics. Harder to reach, easier to acquire targeting solution. Kaya grabbed a piece of debris, timed her throw with the precision of someone who'd spent years calculating trajectories, and launched it at the drone. Not to hit it, to make it dodge. The drone's auto-evasion protocols kicked in, shifted it 3 feet to the left, and put it directly in line with a wall mounting point. Kaya was already there, having scaled the wall while the drone was processing the debris threat. She launched herself from the mounting point, blade extended, and hit the drone mid-air. 1 clean thrust through the core. 3 down. 45 seconds. "Impossible," Prix whispered. "Improbable," Ulix corrected, all 4 arms now motionless, completely focused on the arena. Not impossible. Clearly. The final 2 drones had learned. That was the thing about Mark I models. They adapted. Every engagement fed data into their threat assessment matrices. Every failed attack refined their understanding of target capabilities. By now, they'd calculated that Kaya was operating outside standard human performance parameters. By now, they'd stopped treating her like a normal opponent. They went full aggression. Both drones opened fire simultaneously, creating overlapping fields of plasma that turned the arena into a light show. No more conservative shooting, no more measured engagements. Just sustained, overwhelming firepower designed to saturate every possible escape route. Kaya ran. Not away from the fire, through it. She wove between plasma bolts like she could see them coming, like her nervous system was processing threat data faster than the drones could generate it. A bolt grazed her shoulder, burned through fabric and kissed skin. She didn't slow down. The katana moved in her hands, and here's where things got weird. Every time the blade intercepted a plasma bolt, and it was intercepting them, repeatedly, impossibly, it glowed. Faint at first, just a suggestion of luminescence along the edge. But with each contact, the glow intensified, like the metal was drinking the energy and converting it into something else. "Master Ulix," Thomas said, his voice cracking slightly, Is that supposed to happen?" "No." Ulix's translator carried an edge of something that might have been excitement. "At least, not with any weapon I've ever documented. But then, this blade predates modern metallurgical standards by several centuries." Kaya reached the 4th drone, and the fight got close. Too close for ranged weapons. The drone tried to retreat, maintain optimal engagement distance, but Kaya stayed inside its response curve. She moved like water, like wind, like every martial arts metaphor you'd ever heard, but assumed was just poetic exaggeration. The katana struck, Not the wild swings of someone panicking, but precise cuts that targeted specific components. One strike severed the primary thruster assembly. Another took out the sensor cluster. A third found something deep inside the core that made the whole unit seize up and drop. 4 down. 1 minute, 18 seconds. The last drone didn't panic. It couldn't, being a machine, but its C-20 behavior certainly suggested heightened urgency. It pulled back to maximum range, putting 3 collapsed buildings between itself and Kaya, and switched to indirect fire. Arcing shots, angled to come down on her position from above. Clever. Kaya looked up at the incoming fire, then down at her blade. The glow was still there, pulsing faintly, in rhythm with something. Her heartbeat, maybe, or something deeper. She closed her eyes. "What is she doing?" Quern asked. "Listening," Ulik said. "To what?" "Everything." The first plasma bolt came down. Kaya moved left. Second bolt. She pivoted right. Third bolt. She didn't move at all, just angled the katana up, and the plasma hit the blade and split, both halves dissipating into harmless light. Then she ran at the wall, the vertical wall, and somehow, impossibly, took 3 steps up it before launching herself into the air. Height, trajectory, momentum, all combining into a motion that looked less like combat and more like dance, or flight. She cleared the collapsed buildings, caught a glimpse of the final drone repositioning below, and dropped. Fell 20 feet with the blade extended, gravity doing most of the work, her entire body aligned behind the cut. The katana hit the drone's top plating, the thickest armor point, the section designed to withstand direct missile strikes, and went through it like the armor was mist. 5 down. 1 minute, 56 seconds. Kaya landed in a crouch, the destroyed drone sparking and dying behind her. The arena went neutral. Simulation elements faded. Medical scanners swept her automatically, registering minor burns, elevated heart rate, minor muscle strain. Nothing serious. She stood up, wiped the blade clean with a cloth from her belt. No blood, obviously, just carbon scoring and residual energy discharge, and sheathed it. Then she walked out. The observation area was dead silent. Prix's crystalline features had gone completely clear, all pigmentation drained, which apparently was his species' equivalent of shocked pale. Thomas looked like someone had just explained quantum mechanics using interpretive dance. Quern's jaw was hanging open far enough to violate several biological norms. Ullix broke the silence with a slow, deliberate click of his mandibles, the Corthan equivalent of applause. 1 minute, 56 seconds, he said. 5 Mark 9 drones, eliminated with 0 ranged weapon usage. Minimal damage sustained. His compound eyes fixed on Kaya. "That was not standard combat doctrine, Lieutenant." "No, sir," Kaya agreed. Her shoulder hurt where the plasma had grazed it, but the burn was superficial. Standard doctrine wouldn't have worked. What was it then? Old doctrine. Very old. Ullix gestured for her to elaborate. All 4 arms spread in invitation. Kaya took a breath. This was the part her grandfather had always struggled to explain, the part that sounded insane when you said it out loud. But after what she'd just done, after what everyone had just witnessed, maybe it would land differently. During Earth's Leviathan Wars, she began, humanity faced enemies that could adapt to any conventional weapon. Energy shields that learned to deflect specific frequencies. Armor that evolved to resist particular projectiles. AI targeting systems that predicted human tactics faster than humans could execute them. The Titan-class ships, Ullix said, nodding. I've read the declassified reports. Humanity nearly went extinct. Nearly. But we didn't. Because someone figured out that the Titans had a weakness. They couldn't predict what they couldn't measure, couldn't adapt to what they couldn't understand. Kaya's hand rested on the katana's grip. So, humanity went backward, resurrected combat methods from before the digital age, refined them, weaponized them. Swords against starships, Prix said, disbelief thick in his voice. You expect us to believe— Boarding actions, Kaya interrupted. Once you got inside a Titan, once you were past the shields and armor, you needed weapons that didn't rely on power sources the Titan could drain, didn't use targeting systems it could hack, didn't follow predictable physics it could calculate around. Ulix's antennas quivered. You needed weapons that were extensions of human unpredictability. Exactly. Master smiths forged blades from meteorite iron, metal that had survived atmospheric entry, that had been tempered by cosmic radiation, that had molecular structures unlike anything produced terrestrially. They folded the steel in patterns that created quantum-level inconsistencies, made weapons that existed partially outside conventional physics. Thomas laughed nervously. That sounds like myth. Like propaganda. Does it? Kaya drew the katana again, held it up to the light. The glow was fading now, but still visible. This blade just cut through Mark IX armor. Standard Mark IX plating can withstand direct plasma cannon fire. Military grade. Battle-tested. But a piece of primitive steel went through it, like tissue paper. She let them process that. The Titans had one other weakness, she continued. They processed information sequentially. Lightning fast, yes, but still sequential. Humans, especially humans trained in old martial disciplines, could tap into something different. Intuitive cognition, pattern recognition that bypassed conscious thought. We stopped thinking and started feeling. Feeling, Prix repeated. You defeated 5 combat drones by feeling. No. I defeated 5 combat drones by becoming something their programming couldn't categorize. By moving in ways that seemed random but weren't. By using a weapon that shouldn't work, but does. Kaya sheathed the blade again. The Titans lost because they expected us to fight like them. We won because we remembered how to fight like us. Ulix made a sound his translator didn't even attempt to render. His lower arms moved across his data tablets, pulling up files, cross-referencing information. I've studied human military history, he said slowly. Extensively. It's required reading for Corthan officers, understanding how you defeated the Leviathans, but most of the primary sources were lost. Destroyed in the wars themselves, or classified afterward. What remains are summaries, sanitized reports. I'd always assumed the stories about sword masters cutting through Titan hulls were embellished. Not embellished, just incomplete. Kaya touched the burn on her shoulder, winced slightly. After the wars, humanity wanted to move forward, wanted to forget. Most of the master smiths died during the fighting. Their forges were destroyed. The techniques were lost. Only a few families maintained the traditions. Like yours. Like mine. Ulix was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then he straightened, all 4 arms coming to a formal rest position. Lieutenant Kaya, how many blades like this still exist? Grandfather said maybe 20, possibly less. They're fragile. Not the metal, that's nearly indestructible, but the knowledge of how to use them properly. Each generation that passes, we lose more of the understanding. And you learned from your grandfather. He was the last certified master smith from Old Tokyo Prefecture. Taught me from age 6 until I shipped out for academy training. Which makes you probably one of maybe 10 people alive who can actually fight with these things. Ulix's mandibles clicked in a rapid pattern that his translator rendered as deep consideration. Then he moved to the observation area's communication panel, his upper arms dancing across the interface while his lower arms continued documenting data. "All cadets dismissed except Lieutenant Kaya," he announced. "Return to barracks. Training resumes at 0600 tomorrow." Prix opened his mouth, probably to object, definitely to ask questions. Ulix's compound eyes fixed on him with an intensity that could have stripped hull plating. Prix closed his mouth. Left. The others followed, Thomas throwing one last confused glance at Kaya before the door sealed. Alone now. Just Kaya and Ulix in the observation area, the arena floor below still showing scorch marks from the simulation. "You're not in trouble," Ulix said, before Kaya could ask. "Quite the opposite. But what happens next requires discretion." "Sir?" Ulix activated something on the console. Privacy protocols, judging by the faint hum of jamming fields engaging around the room. Military-grade security. Whatever was coming, it was classified enough to make Kaya's security clearance feel inadequate. "In 3 minutes," Ulix said, "someone is going to walk through that door. When she does, you'll show her the same respect you'd show me. Possibly more. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "Good. And, Lieutenant? Don't do anything aggressive. Don't draw your blade unless she asks. This meeting is delicate." Before Kaya could ask what in 9 hells that meant, the door opened. A woman entered. Human. Late 50s, maybe early 60s, with silver hair tied back in a practical bun, and the kind of posture that screamed military training, so ingrained it had become cellular. She wore civilian clothes, dark pants, simple tunic, but moved like someone accustomed to armor. And on her hip, barely visible under her tunic, was a scabbard. Kaya's breath caught. "Commander Yuki," Ulix said, inclining his head in obvious respect. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." "Ulix." The woman, Yuki, nodded back, then turned her attention to Kaya. Her eyes were dark, sharp, and missed absolutely nothing. "So, you're the one carrying the pinnacle blade." What?" "Your katana. The one you just used to make my colleague here nearly vibrate out of his exoskeleton with excitement." Yuki moved closer, her movements economical and precise. "May I see it?" Kaya glanced at Ulix, who gestured permission. She drew the blade slowly, reversed it, presented it in the formal style grandfather had taught her. Yuki took it with both hands, held it up to the light. Her expression didn't change, but something in her posture shifted. Recognition. Respect. Something deeper. Folded steel, meteorite core, differential hardening along the edge. Traditional clay tempering. She turned the blade, examining the Haman, the wavy line where hard edge met softer spine. Inscription on the tang reads, "Let me see. Forged in fire, baptized in stars, wielded by the worthy." Classic Tanaka workshop signature. Kaya nearly dropped everything. "You can read old Japanese?" "I can do more than read it." Yuki returned the blade, then reached under her tunic and drew her own. Identical style. Same curve. Same length. The steel caught the light and held it in exactly the same impossible way Kaya's blade did. "Master Tanaka forged mine 6 months before he died," Yuki said, her voice carrying weight that had nothing to do with volume. 63 cycles ago, by station time, back when Earth was still rebuilding from the Leviathan Wars, when the old families were being hunted by the new government for hoarding dangerous technologies. She smiled, thin and sharp. "I was 16. Tanaka was your great-grandfather." Kaya's world tilted sideways. "You knew him." "Trained under him for 8 years. He taught me everything. The forms, the philosophy, the way to hear what the blade is telling you. Yuki's expression softened slightly. He used to say that steel remembers. Every fold, every heating, every cooling, all that history compressed into 30 inches of edge. He told me the same thing. Then you understand. Yuki sheathed her blade in one smooth motion. Lieutenant Kaya, what do you know about the Obsidian Protocol? Nothing. Never heard of it. Good. It's supposed to be a secret. Yuki moved to the observation window, looked down at the arena. After the Leviathan Wars, after humanity won but nearly destroyed itself in the process, the provisional government made a decision. They would suppress all information about the Titan Breaker blades, the Master Smiths, the old combat disciplines. Too dangerous, they said. Too primitive. Humanity needed to look forward, embrace new technologies, join the galactic community as modern equals. But some people disagreed, Alex interjected. Some people remembered that modern technology almost got us killed, Yuki corrected. So they went underground, preserved the knowledge, kept the traditions alive, and more importantly, they kept recruiting, finding people like you, people who carry the blades, who understand what they represent. Kaya's mind was racing, connecting pieces. The academy placement, my assignment to this station, Alex being my instructor. That wasn't random. Nothing is random. Yuki turned back to face her. We've been watching you since you enlisted, waiting to see if you were worthy, if you understood what you carried, or if it was just a family heirloom you wore for show. Today was a test. Today was confirmation. Alex stepped forward, his forearms spreading in a gesture of inclusion. The Obsidian Protocol maintains a network across 9 star systems, military personnel, civilian contractors, even some political figures. All of us dedicated to preserving combat methodologies that mainstream society has forgotten. Because here's what the optimists don't want to admit. The Titans weren't unique. They were just the first truly existential threat humanity faced. There will be others, Yuki said. Are others? Threats that conventional weapons can't stop. Enemies that adapt faster than technology can evolve. And when those threats emerge, humanity needs more options than just bigger guns and shinier shields. You need people who can fight in the spaces between, Kaya said quietly. Exactly. Yuki's smile was approval and respect combined. The protocol runs covert training programs, recruits specialists, maintains archives of old combat techniques. We're not trying to reject modern warfare. We're trying to complement it, to remember that sometimes the oldest answers are still the best ones. Kaya looked at her katana, still in her hand, the blade that had belonged to her grandfather and his father before him. 6 generations of warriors, maybe 8. All of them carrying steel that remembered how to kill gods. What are you asking me? To join us, Alex said simply. Continue your regular academy training, graduate with your class, receive your standard commission. But in parallel, you'd undergo specialized instruction. Learn techniques that aren't in any database. Train with weapons that officially don't exist. Become part of a community that understands what you've always known. That tradition isn't weakness. How many others are there? People like me? In active service? Maybe 30 with blade training comparable to yours. Another 100 with related specializations, archaic weapons, historical, combat systems, unconventional tactical approaches. Throughout the protocol network? Thousands. Yuki moved closer, her expression serious. But blade masters are rare, precious. The knowledge you carry is literally irreplaceable. If we lose you, We lose part of humanity's combat heritage forever. No pressure, though, Kaya said dryly. Yuki laughed, an actual laugh, warm and genuine. I like her already. Ulix, you were right about this one. I usually am. If a Korthan could sound smug, Ulix managed it. What about my classmates? Kaya asked. Pricks, Thomas, the others. They saw what I did. They'll have questions. Let them ask. Ulix's antennas twitched with what might have been amusement. Officially, you demonstrated exceptional close combat skills using an authorized personal weapon. Nothing more. If they want to believe in mystical space swords, that's their business. If they want to learn from you, even better. Spreading the knowledge, carefully and selectively, is part of our mission. Speaking of learning, Yuki said, I've been instructing advanced blade techniques for 20 years. I'd like to spar with you. See what Tanaka taught his granddaughter. See if the family style evolved or stayed traditional. Kaya felt something in her chest loosen. A tension she'd been carrying since childhood, since the first time another kid had mocked her for practicing with old junk while they played with holographic training programs. The loneliness of being the only one who understood, the only one who cared. I'd like that, she said. Good. Tomorrow, 0500, private training hall on deck 18. Bring your blade and your best game. I'm not going easy just because you're Tanaka's blood. Yuki's smile turned predatory. I'm going to push you harder than any simulation ever could. I wouldn't want it any other way. Ulix cleared his throat, or made the Korthan equivalent sound. Before we get too excited about blade dancing, there's paperwork. So much paperwork. Security clearances, protocol briefings, non-disclosure agreements. Welcome to the exciting world of covert operations, where the bureaucracy is somehow worse than standard military. How much worse? I've been processing documents for 6 hours straight, Ulix said. My lower arms are starting to cramp. That's how much worse. Kaya couldn't help but laugh. Here she was, being recruited into a secret organization dedicated to preserving humanity's most dangerous combat traditions, and the primary obstacle was administrative forms. Some things never changed, regardless of how far you went into the galaxy. Yuki pulled out a data tablet, tapped through several screens. Basic orientation starts next rotation. You'll meet the other protocol members stationed on Pinnacle 9, get access to our training facilities, review the historical archives. In the meantime, act normal. Graduate. Make your family proud with the public achievements while doing the real work in private. Can I tell anyone? My family. Your family already knows, Yuki said gently. How do you think we found you? Your grandfather contacted us before he died. Made sure we'd look after you, guide you when the time came. He was protocol himself, decades ago. One of the founding members, actually. That hit harder than any plasma bolt. Grandfather had never mentioned it, never said anything beyond teaching her the forms, telling her the stories, insisting she practice even when it seemed pointless. But he'd known. He'd planned for this. The old man always did think 3 moves ahead, Kaya said, her voice rougher than she'd intended. 4, usually, Yuki corrected. Sometimes 5. He was insufferable that way. Brilliant, but insufferable. She extended her hand. Welcome to the Obsidian Protocol, Lieutenant Kaya. Your grandfather would be proud. I'm proud. Now let's make sure you survive long enough to pass this knowledge to the next generation. Kaya took her hand. Firm grip. Warriors recognizing warriors. One question, Kaya said. Why Obsidian Protocol? What's the significance? Ulix's mandibles clicked in what his translator rendered as dark amusement. Obsidian is volcanic glass, formed when lava meets water too quickly for crystals to develop. It's not the strongest material, not the most advanced, but throughout human history, across every continent and culture, you used it for one thing consistently. Blades, Kaya finished. Blades, Yuki confirmed. The first cutting tools, the oldest weapons, sharp enough to split atoms, given proper application. We chose the name as a reminder. Sometimes, the oldest answers cut deepest. Outside, through the observation window, Kaya could see maintenance drones cleaning the arena, erasing the scorch marks, resetting for the next training rotation. Tomorrow, other cadets would use that space, completely unaware of what had happened there. But Kaya would remember, would carry it forward. Steel remembers, Grandfather had said. So would she.